We'll get started. Alrighty, we're starting. Thank you guys for joining us. We are here, like I just said, with Chris Ryu from Dorset Tech, who I'm sure some of you guys will know. He's involved quite heavily with ClubHub, who is obviously a big presence in our sector. So you guys may well know Chris from them guys. And Chris is the go-to guy for SEO, really, and websites and all that sort of stuff. A lot of us are less familiar with. Certainly myself, I'm less familiar with some of this stuff. So it's really good to have him on board. Thank you, Chris, for joining us. Guys that are joining us, please feel free to use the chat function, say hello, ask questions. I think Chris is going to have a bit of a Q&A at the end of the session. So feel free to hold them for then, or ask if you want throughout. And then obviously we'll come back to that at some point and make sure we try and answer those, okay? And obviously if you want to get hold of Chris after the session, Dorset Tech, there'll be a link sent out with this video recording, and you guys can obviously Google that as well and find him, and he will happily tell you about what he does a bit more and obviously answer questions if you need to. So, without further ado, Chris Ryu, welcome, thank you for joining us. Chris, tell us about yourself before we go into your presentation. You've got some slides to show us in a second. Tell us about you. What do you do?
Awesome. So actually, I preempted a mad day, being the first day of lockdown, and this office is actually staying open because we do tech repairs on site, emergency tech repairs and stuff like that. So I've actually pre-recorded the beginning part of the presentation. It's a good job I did actually, because it's been murdered this morning. So I'll sort of explain in the pre-recorded bit a bit about my history and stuff like that. So I'll kind of, if it's all right with you, I'll sort of crack on.
Yeah, go for it, Chris.
All right, so thanks, Andy. Thanks, everyone. Let's do this. Kapow and hello, everyone. I'm Chris Ryu, and today I'm going to talk to you about why SEO matters now more than ever, and some techniques that you can apply to your business to grow in the search engines. As a children's activity provider, you might not have the advertising budgets of the big guys, but you can certainly kick their butts in the search engines. I'm super excited to be hosting this session, and I've arranged for a few freebies and prizes for your details at the end of this talk. So some quick background on me. So I'm a kids club veteran of 18 years, and until recently I ran my own 2,500 square foot STEM education centre. So I know all too well the daily challenges that many of you go through. I'm just not that man to do it full time. Huge respect to you, really. So these days I don't get to teach that much other than the occasional robot combat class and some sort of special requests. But through my other business, Dorset Tech, I still get to help fellow kids club owners, and my wife Emma runs a local toddler group. So we founded Dorset Tech 18 months ago. It's a superhero themed social enterprise doing websites and apps, then giving the profits back to the community through all kinds of schemes. We're believed to be the fastest growing agency in the country. We hired 9 new team members during lockdown. We're about to hire another 5 if the second lockdown doesn't hurt us too badly. We do have some pretty awesome USPs, but I have to credit a lot of our growth to our SEO. How much effort have we made? Well, hardly anything really. It's the typical sort of cobbler's children issue with us, really. But even with very little SEO work, we've managed to get the #1 spot in our county, or several actually. Consider that the people competing for those same terms as us also claim to be SEO specialists and have much older sites that have more authority. And it shows you the real power of our approach to SEO, the just help people method. Which I'll refer to a few times during this talk, no doubt. Let's check my notes. So I've been doing SEO for big brands for 12 years now, and it's changed a lot during that time frame. Some of the growth hack techniques we used to use back then no longer work, but the core principles have always stayed the same. You stick true to those and you will always do well. It's these techniques that I'm going to teach you in today's video. None of this will be black hat, it will be what we call white hat SEO. So SEO is probably new to some of you, so I'll start with a really quick recap of what SEO is. So search engine optimization is the process of making your website easier for search engines like Google to read. And it's also then encouraging them to refer more traffic to you rather than your competitors. So SEO is really search engine marketing, and you should treat it just like any other kind of marketing. You plan, you start out first, actually have a plan, see where you are in the search engines, then you invest. So that can be time or money, doesn't matter. It can be a bit of both. And you don't need to get an agency like us to do it. You can do SEO by yourself. You then track the results. So you use stuff like Google Analytics, use something like SEMrush, which I'll probably refer to later on, no doubt. If I forget, somebody remind me in questions and answers. Then you evaluate it. So you have to just check that you're making progress. And then you basically start the whole process again at the beginning. SEO is always an ongoing process. If you ever get an agency approach you and they say, hey, we can get you to #1 for £400 and that's it, nah. Run a mile. They're scammers, because it's never going to be a one-off thing. You're always going to have to continuously do it. But again, you don't need an agency to do it for you. It does help because obviously they're specialists, they know what they're doing, but you can do this yourself, and I'm going to go through some of this. So the target audience of your search engine marketing, or SEM for short, is someone like Google. But of course, you also have to consider their target audience and your actual end user, the visitor, making SEO one of the most complicated types of marketing, having those two very different target audiences. Over the years, Google has actually kind of realigned themselves a little bit, and actually they kind of want their users to have the best experience and to find the best content. And so you kind of now SEO kind of has one target audience, but for a good, well, at least 10 years of my time doing SEO, Google was a very different target audience than your actual end user. So you kind of, people were writing content for Google, whereas you really shouldn't do that. You should write the content for the end user. But Google is looking for the same stuff. So we can simplify SEO just by using our just help people method. So I was asked to go through the importance of SEO in this session, but I am keen to get into the meat of how you can take action today. So I'll sort of skim through these stats a lot quicker than I would normally. Normally got a little bit more time to play with. So 68% of online experiences start with a search. I don't need to sort of go into that more really. I think we've all done it. Even if we're looking for a specific website, we tend to actually just type in that top bar the name of the brand or the type of company it is we're after to then get the results. Google process 3.5 billion searches every day. This goes up every single year. More searches are now done by voice as well, which is something to sort of bear in mind with the way you phrase some of your terms. 88% of people perform online research before making a purchase in store. When I was at Audi, we did some research on the number of people that were buying cars while doing online research. And actually a lot of people were actually there in the showroom or on the forecourt, actually price checking cars there and then, doing research, looking at, literally watching video reviews of their car to go, oh, is that one any good? And people will be doing that for you guys too. People will be doing online research before they actually come in. The typical searches are stuff like, what's the best age to start swimming lessons or to start ballet classes or whatever it may be. That people will be doing that kind of research. So you want to be showing up for those searches. On Google, 31% of clicks go to the first organic result. Crazy stat. You've got to get that #1 spot, or certainly in the top 3, or you won't really find it. There's like a little saying in our industry, the best place to hide a body is on page 2 of Google. Google alone drives 8 times the traffic of all the social media channels combined. Now, this is a crazy stat. You need to, if you're already doing social media, you need to consider how much time you do right now on social media and put some of that time at least into your SEO. So yeah, SEO is kind of a big deal. So there's 2 types of SEO. There's on-page and off-page. So on-page is where you've got the most control. This is most of what we do. So this is all about making your site the best it can be for the search engines. I'll give you some quick wins for this in a moment, but the key bits really are this list. So content. So this is the most important one, really. Google wants their results to be the best, so they'll prioritize the best content. Simple. So there are factors around the site itself, so around the age of the site, how much authority it's got, how many backlinks there are, all that kind of jazz, which I will go through in a moment when I get to the off page. section. But on the whole, Google will rank the best content first. Do reverse engineer success is a good way of sort of looking at it. So if you look at your sort of top query you want to get, and you see that they've got, let's say, 500 words on their page, lots of nice clear titles, you want to be having 1,000 words on your page. You want to be having multiple links to that page from inside your site. You want to be having a dedicated page for each one of your search terms. And that's a really key point, actually. So every time you're making a page on your site, think, what is the keyword I want this page to be showing for? And I'm not talking here about your about page, your contact page. They're fine, you've got to have those. But I'm talking about landing pages. So you create these, they don't even have to be in your menu, although it will add weight to them if they are in your menu. But you are just creating these pages for Google to find. So you're having a nice header at the top. And actually, I'll dive in. This is actually a really good point, actually, to bring up my screen and just dive into a little bit of WordPress, because WordPress is the most popular web platform these days. Okay, so let's start here with a news post on the website. So you've got to consider your keywords. So think of that, what that person's searching. So let's put our keywords in the title. Oops. So when you're writing your news article, try and get your keywords in the title here. Then when you start your page, so let's say you put a little title here, then you have your little paragraph of text. And then maybe you've got a little subtitle a little bit lower down, paragraph of text. What you need to be doing is the first title, which hopefully has got lots of your keywords in, not spammy, but decent quality keywords. You then make that a H1 tag. So H1 is the most important thing on the page. And a little bit further down, hopefully you've got some more keywords in the title, and you'll pick your H2, and so on and so forth. So you try and do a really lengthy page. 1,000 words is ideal, at least 400 really. This page can be a proper page or it can be a news post. It actually doesn't matter, it doesn't make any difference. I tend to find these days that it is easier to write a news post for SEO, like a blog post for SEO, purely because you can almost, I don't want to say shoehorn, but you can almost shoehorn keywords in there. It feels much more comfortable writing when you're doing it that way. So with a page, it almost feels really fake when you're sort of putting the page title as like your keywords. So for us, I have researched keywords. It could be like best web designers in Dorset, for instance. So we would then repeat some of those keywords here, web designers in Dorset. But as you may notice, this doesn't read very well. Like, why would anybody want to read this? Well, that's the hard part of SEO. So this is what you have to consider, and this is why you can't go all out with SEO. You do need to sort of take your time, make it natural. As you have to consider a way of writing for people, not for search engines, but still getting those keywords in there. So that's why length is quite important, really. If you're trying to cram your keywords in and you want them sort of, say, 4 or 5 times throughout a news article, and it's only, say, a 400-word article, it's going to feel really spammy. People aren't going to enjoy the content. They're going to leave. You're going to have a high bounce rate, which you remember is one of our items on our list. It's bounce rate. So that's the number of people that click on a search result and then come back out because they haven't found what they want. But ultimately, you're gonna hurt your own SEO. So instead, you have to write for the user. So a really easy, good way of doing that is thinking of your topic. So let's say web designers is my sort of keyword that I want to rank for. Let's actually use a proper example in a moment, but we can go to something called, oops, and so the public, these guys, and we can type in our keyword that we want to rank for. It will do a little search for us. Doesn't normally take this long, but of course it would when I'm recording. Okay, and then it will give you the most popular questions that people type into Google. So you can pick one. Let's do a where. So where to find web designers. So that would then be the title of the blog. Hopefully that makes sense. Obviously, you can do one for well, whatever type of kids activity you run, you do the sort of, and mix it up each time as well, each block you do. Now, this is to show you the importance I place on doing these articles. Look at how frequently we write a blog. Now, some of these will be really short, some will be really long, but you would probably notice a pattern if you see ones like, look at the engagement on this one. There's 22 comments on this one, and this will no doubt show up in the analytics as well. We did an article here. So some of these are like, have got some tips, they tell you advice, but let's have a look at this one. Let's see, in fact, actually, you should look at the article itself. Let's see why it was so helpful. Well, we included a video. Google loves video. They own YouTube. They love video. Include a video on your pages. Ideally, your video, because you get double whammy from that as well. You'll get traffic back from YouTube. But it can be, somebody else's video with their permission. Nice title here. This would be a H1. Then we've got these will actually be H2s, I would imagine, or just strong tags. Then we've got a title, and then we've got another keyword here. This will be a H2. And you see loads of content. We're helping someone. Like this here is to attention how to basically remove the virus that hit their website. Now this is a helpful post. So if I look at our Google Analytics here, you see organic traffic is our number one traffic source. Now if I sort of dial in and perhaps let's just go down and let's have a look at the behavior. Let's see it for a second there. And let's just go into our sort of popular pages. What pages are people looking at? Well, look, our home page, yeah, that's the most viewed. Look at this one. That's that blog. It was the most helpful, and yeah, it shows it. Write content that helps people. It will help you get your SEO, I promise. I know I've sort of like stayed on this point a bit longer than I planned, really. But from here, other things. So I mentioned adding an image. So let's just grab an image here. Let's grab one just to show you. Put your alt text in. So you see this image here, design pool on that particular image. Let's grab a different one. Got design Dorset, we've got on that one there. Grab, even if it's a stock image, put some alt text in there. So alt text is originally designed for people that have visual disabilities and use like a screen reader, but Google checks the alt tag. So put that in there. I promise you it'll make a big difference. So we've ticked off a lot of our lists already on this one. So we've got our H tags, our HTML tags, but these are heading tags. We've done our image alt tags. Internal linking is fairly obvious, but if you've referred to something in your blog article that you've referred to before, well, link to it. It's brilliant. Add some internal links. If you don't already have it, so let's say you've got a WordPress site and you don't already have it, you need to install the Yoast SEO plugin. It will be a game changer for your SEO. Not only does it do an awesome, I mean really awesome sitemap, but it also gives you lots of little tips and advice here. So you've got your readability. One of the other items on the list called Schema was really difficult. It kind of tells Google what kind of page this is and what's on the page. But Yoast actually includes that free of charge now. So use Yoast. It's just a no-brainer, really. So you can come in here, you can edit the meta title. So that's the thing that we've shown in the Google search. Then you can edit the meta description. You'll see we've set a rule here just to use the excerpt. So we use like the first paragraph of the blog article itself as our meta description. We would go in and edit it, like if we wanted to do the SEO, but this is a nice fallback if we forget. I'll just show you how to set that. So you go into SEO and you go search appearance. Top tip, by the way. So you come in here, make sure you've got your organization name and logo set, by the way, because that helps with the schema and it will help encourage Google to give you a knowledge graph. So that's one where when somebody searches for something, it will come up with a little panel on the right hand side with your details on. So you go on content types, and this is where you can plumb in the defaults. So the default is terrible, by the way. I would normally have title and then there's a variable called site title. I would normally have something like that. Sometimes with a separator in between. The reason why we haven't got that currently is because we're just trying something. We do a lot of tests on our own site rather than customer sites. We're just trying something at the moment using a custom plugin that we've written. So hopefully we'll be able to release it soon, and it will help everybody that has the really popular Visual Composer plugin. So more on that on another day. Okay, so the other elements of the on-page SEO, and this is where it gets difficult. So you need the site to be mobile friendly. So this is something that you would normally ask a web developer to help you with, but it does need to be mobile friendly. And at the same time, you have to worry about the bounce rate. So you need your site to look professional, and it needs to clearly give across the information. So before they've even scrolled down the site, they need to know what they're getting, know they're on the right site, and kind of get the right vibe, that you've got a good authority from it. Then you've got the domain age. This is something that is totally out of your control, but basically don't change your domain name. You need a really nice old domain that's got loads of history behind it, and that will help you with your SEO. And don't worry if it is a brand new domain, the ranks will come, but it's going to take time, a lot of time, particularly in your first sort of 6 months, you will struggle for traffic. Okay, so the other type of SEO is off-page. So this is where you use other people's sites as a way of showing Google and the other search engines that your content is helpful. So links from good quality and relevant sites to yours tell Google that your content is good quality and relevant. You have to be careful here, as the days of building thousands of spam links in the comments section of blogs have long gone. So Google is continuously making changes to ignore the value of spam links and even dishing out manual penalties to those that try to abuse the system. So making good content will bring in good inbound links. When making pages of your site, think, am I helping someone with this page? So again, this doesn't include your about us and your contact page. That's fine, they've got a purpose. But think about landing pages, think about pages that tell people what you do or what services you offer. Try and help them on the page, whether that's help and advice, explaining what it is, answering a question. Just think, if you were them and you were looking for your service, what would you be asking? You know, what kind of questions would be there in the back of your mind? So whether that's, as I said before, what's the best age to start swimming, or start horse riding, or taekwondo, whatever it may be, those kind of questions come up a lot. And rather than putting them all in a frequently asked questions kind of block, write a news item about each individual one, and then give a clear navigation to get to them. Okay, so off-page isn't just about links. There are other factors, so stuff like reputation and authority. So if you're the authority for someone, for some sort of topic, people will link to you for it. Guest posting on other people's sites builds your authority nicely. So that's a nice little way of getting in there. And also they tend to give you a link to your site, so you get a backlink as well. PR in SEO terms, any news is good news. So backlink to your website is awesome, but also it inspires others to link to you. Again, it kind of builds that authority. Directories, well, Yale.com is, well, it doesn't have the traffic it used to, put it that way, but it's still got the authority there. So get your free listing, just don't buy a package. Google My Business is a huge one. This has become one of the most important parts of offsite SEO. So get yourself a free listing, update it often, put your news on there, put your offers, special COVID messages, all that kind of stuff. Get some reviews on there and you will be flying. For local SEO, Google My Business is like the first step. You have to do it. Then there's social media signals. So there's no actual hard data on this, which is really annoying, but there are several studies have shown that social signals have a direct impact on SEO. But either way, they have a secondary impact in a way, because the more your content is shared and liked on social media, the more likely it is to be linked to and referenced. And so that has a big impact on SEO anyway. Okay, so I think I've just about got enough time to do Chris's quick fixes. So I'm going to give you my top 10 tips for crushing your competitors in the Google search results. So number one is Google My Business. So get yourself over to google.com/business. Now I already have an account, but you may or may not have an account, but manage your listings. So let me just... So you're going to create a listing, and you'll see here, so you start typing your name. So I'm just going to pick a random one. I don't know, Hackney Anvils. Oh, of course, that was one that came up there. Or I just spelled it wrong. Okay. So there's not one there. So I'm going to create a business with this name. So make sure you type your name properly, capital letters and all that sort of stuff. then you'll pick the category that suits it best. Now, you can choose more categories later, so don't worry too much about this, but this is important. So pick your primary category here, like the thing that people are most likely to find your service for. Now, there is, where are we? I think it's just children's club. Okay, so this children's club, which tends to be the best one for most people, but if you've got a specific one like dance club, for instance, I would prioritize that above children's club if there is one. You know, if there's a one that's specific to you in your industry, choose that. If not, fall back to children's club. So I'm going to go on to the next step. So this is quite important. So do you want to add a location customers can visit, like a store or office? Right, so this is not essential. You can say no and your address won't show up. However, if you're serious about SEO, you need to find a way that this can be a yes. So this is somewhere that someone can visit you. Ideally, you don't want your house on here. You want one of your venues. So let's say, I mean, some of you are lucky and you've got premises. Some of you are not quite so lucky and you sort of hire halls or you do sessions in schools. The schools may sometimes allow you to do it. I've got customers that have managed to get that permission, but sometimes they won't. They're precious over it. So you've got to be careful here. So if you cannot put an address and you're not happy putting your home on there, then just say no. But ideally, you want a yes, so people can find you, and that will help you show up in the searches, because then you'll start showing it as the local searches as well. So if I show an example, if we go to, I'll open up another tab here. If I go to Dorset web design, search for that. So you see the map come up first, and it shows us and a couple of providers in Dorset. Our listing here, completely free of charge. You know, that's what this Google Maps listing is. So you'll see where they are on the map. Sometimes it'll be on the right instead. In fact, sometimes, like if I actually did like a Dorset Tech, for instance, our listing is also shown on the right side. This is a knowledge curve. So this little box here is because of this listing. So I'm going to say yes in this one. Go through the next steps. You pop your address in. Of course, it's not going to let me. It will basically, in the final stage, it will just ask you to verify the address. Okay, a second now. Right, this is an important bit as well. Do you also serve customers outside this location? So people are quite often tempted here to say yes, and then basically list every area going. Don't do it. Just put the actual area, and you'll be fine. Like if you serve everybody in United Kingdom, just put United Kingdom. But ideally, personally, and that this isn't backed up by stats, unfortunately, this is just backed up by experience. I found better results by actually naming my kind of local county. So realistically, while yes, we do, in fact, probably about 40% of our customers are outside our county. In fact, probably about 20% are outside of this country. We still say that we only do Dorset. So you say yes, and then just pick, in our case, we would pick Dorset. Okay, put your phone number. This is really important that it's the exact same format as your website. This is another SEO thing. I haven't got time to go into why, but just make sure that that is the exact same format, so spacing, etc., as your website. And then put in your web address. Remember the S if it's HTTPS. So if it's a secure one, make sure you put that in. If you don't have a website, you can actually get a free one from Google. It's terrible, but it will get you going. So tick that button if you need one. So you go through it, and the final stage just after that, just down here, oh, of course it is. The final stage just after that is to verify your address. So they'll send you a postcard in the post. It takes a few days. You just enter the code, and that will get your profile valid. So go in there after that. Enter as much info as you can. You know, be sensible about it, but enter some sensible information. I forget where it is now. It's down here. So this information shows down here, and then you'll notice we've done like these look like social media posts. That's because Google My Business allows you to do that now. We schedule them through Zoho. You can do them manually. and treat it like a social media network, really. That shows Google that you're updating frequently, you're doing lots of content, and that's probably why we show up first in the county on the map. So definitely do that stuff. Okay, next top tip, because I spent ages on that one, I'm going to have to be quick, but use WordPress. I know that sounds really harsh, but use WordPress. So a lot of you use stuff like Wix. Wix is just terrible for SEO. It's way better than it used to be because it was just horrendous at one point. And they used something called Canvas to build the sites, and just Google couldn't really see them very well. The downside of all that flexibility they give you on stuff like Wix for the drag and drop stuff is that Google can't really see the content as well. So tip number 2 is use WordPress. It's free, so entirely free. You just pay for your hosting wherever you want it. But get that. I did mention site speed earlier, so get decent hosting. Just kind of see it as like your office rent, really, and get some decent hosting. So I'm not saying dedicated servers, but something called a VPS would be amazing. I can talk you through that, but obviously I'm kind of running out of time. So I mentioned Yoast. So Yoast is my top tip number 3. Number 4 is directory submissions. So don't use any of those spammy ones that submits it to all of the directories. Just look for ones in your industry. Add your listing, your free listings, and if there's a cheap package for web links, get one, which goes directly onto my next one. Number 5 is buy the ClubHub web link package. Now I'm slightly biased because we built ClubHub a fair few years ago. It was my previous web agency actually built ClubHub and the app. But yeah, definitely buy the package. It's just so insanely cheap that it's just a no-brainer. So Tessa over at ClubHub has built an amazing site with literally like something like 30,000 listings on there. It's ridiculous. And the domain authority of her site is amazing. So go over to ClubHub. She also, I mean, if you're struggling to find it, just search for kids clubs, and sure as hell it's the top result, and the one on below it. So get yourself on there, buy the package. So there's a little section here called Club Owner. Let's list the packages. But this package here, yes, you read that right, it is £2.50 per year per listing, which is just insane. I mean, her domain authority is incredible, and so to buy it, and this is a follow link as well, which for those of you who know a little bit about SEO, this is a really good link, and it's £2.50 a year. It's kind of insane. You get other features too, so you get a book now button. They take no commission, but you can take bookings directly on the listing. It comes through in an email, just like you expect. And a recent feature also gives you the email address of everybody that's visited your website from ClubHub. So that's kind of cool, right? So that's top tip number 5. It probably should be tip number 1, really. It's that good. Tip number 6 is get yourself some SEO software. It can be just a free trial. So something like SEMrush. So SEMrush. SEMrush. Get yourself a free listing on here. They do a lovely little free trial. I think it's 2 weeks at the moment, but you get yourself a free trial. Their audit's brilliant. And you may not understand some of the stuff they have on there because it is one of the most advanced ones, and it's really expensive, so you probably can't justify buying it. But it's a good tool. So next up is image alt tags, because it's so overlooked, but go through your site and do what I was showing you earlier, where you just add those image alt tags. That'll make a big old difference. Next up is add a cache to your site. So we use something called WP Rocket, but that is a paid solution. So the alternative is something, so if I just go into plugins here and add new, I'll just show you the one that I recommend. So I recommend this one here. It's called W3 Cache. So the great thing about this one is completely free, and it doesn't really need a lot of setup. Let me just, I'm probably going to break my website by doing this, by the way, because I've got Rocket running. It's already taken ages to install. It's normally like 2 or 3 seconds to install W3 Cache, so it's not very happy me having Rocket 2. But basically, W3 cache will kind of like take all of the complex stuff behind the scenes of your site that it sort of loads every time you load a page, and it will store that in one static file, so that rather than every time somebody loads a page, it loading all that stuff multiple times, it'll only load it the once, and so it will speed up your site. They do work with other services. I mean, if I could give you 20 tips, I'd tell you to use something like Cloudflare. That's remarkable. Yeah, you can see here. I've got a little problem. It's not very happy that we've got both caches here, but I just want to show you. So once you've done W3 cache, it will give you this performance menu, and then under General Settings. Yes, I know. Under General Settings, you can enable the page cache. You can enable minify, so that'll shrink all your files down. It's got lots of different add-ons, like you've got database cache. Yes, you want that. Yes, you want object cache. Yes, you want browser cache. My top tips is you do all of that stuff. Bear in mind, the initial settings may break your site. You may have to turn something off to get it working, and then just leave that one off. So you might not be able to enable all this. It just depends on how well you built your site's built. But so once you've done your general settings, you turn it all on. Come under minify. And just down here, just tick the box to enable HTML minify, because that's disabled by default. And just check that JS and CSS are enabled. So hopefully this video is being recorded and this will be shared at some point so you can see these. But make sure they're enabled. Again, as soon as you've done it, open your site in incognito and just check it's not broken, because you may have to turn some of this off. Your site might not be fully compatible. It just depends on how well it's built. So go into browser cache, and this will be my last tip, I promise. Go into browser cache and just make sure you turn on set expires header. I don't know why it's not set as default. It's really, really good, but make sure that's on. And then that'll be your top tip complete on that one. So I've got two left, haven't I? So number 9 will be a H tag. So that's what I went over before. So heading 1 is your main heading. Get some keywords in there. And then sort of H2 tag below it, and then top tip even TikTok even. So my top tip number 10 is blog. It doesn't have to be a blog, actually. Just add content to your site. So you've seen how frequently we do it, and you've seen the results we get from it. So just blog. Some of them, I mean, we've got ones that aren't very long at all, actually. In fact, just noticed there that one of them is in a draft. That's one of my team literally working on it right now. Oh, no, actually, that's the one I was working on earlier. That's why I was just thinking, oh, they shouldn't be working on it now because I'm recording this too late. So you go through and look, it's not even the longest one ever, but it's divided up into nice headings. Simple. It's not overly optimized. It kind of doesn't have to be. We add an image. The image has an alt tag. We've got our meta descriptions. That's the metadata we mentioned earlier. As simple as it gets, really. So that's my top tips. I'm running out of time in this session, but I have a freebie for you to continue your journey. So for a limited time only, if you send your web address in an email to icap@dorset.tech, so ICAP@dorset.tech, one of our team will run through your site and put it on our super SEO system, and it will give you a completely free of charge SEO audit. It's not quite the same as if one of us was sort of manually auditing the site, but it will give you a list of items that you can improve yourself, and it will tell you where you are now. And then you're welcome to come back to us in, say, 3 months' time and get a where you are then kind of report and see the sort of progress you've made. Before we go into Q&A, I also have a challenge for you. So tweet me at Dorset Tech STEM with the hashtag SEO challenge, with one thing you're going to do during lockdown to improve your SEO. I'm going to choose a winner, and then they'll get a back to the high street goodie bag and a full manual audit by one of our SEO specialists. So tweet me at Dorset Tech STEM with the hashtag SEO challenge. So I just want to know that one thing you're going to do during lockdown to improve your SEO. So let's open for questions. So I think this is a really good one. So let's go into this one. So where is the link in Google My Business for reviews so that we can add that link in communication with customers? That comes from Chloe Williams. So bear with me while I just share my screen. Okay, cool. So they remade this recently. It used to be really easy to get to, but now you have to go into, so you go into your, it used to be google.com/business, but now it's business.google.com. And you'll see a list of all your locations. So if you're a multi-location business, that's perfectly fine to have each one of them listed. I'll go in a moment in one of the other questions covered multi-locations. So on here, just on the right-hand side now, you've got this new button that says Share Review Form. So you click that one, and it will just give you the link here. So you can sort of one-click share it on the social medias, or you can just click to copy the link and send that to a customer, and that takes them directly to it. No longer do they have to sort of find you on the map and then send it that way. They can actually just do it straight from the link, so it's so much better. So hopefully that answers your question. Right, let's come back to me. Let's have a little look at this list again. We've got loads of great ones. Cheers, guys, for giving me all these. All right, how would you list locations for online providers? Okay, so yeah, so there's no PO boxes. They're explicitly forbidden in Google's terms of use, so which kind of sucks, but I understand why they do it. This is all about map locations, really. But you can list your home address, or if you can get permission from the venue, then say a school that you're working at, for instance, you can get permission to list their address. If you don't want your home address shown on Google, that's perfectly fine. There's an option there to tick that you don't want it shown. But it does affect your SEO. Where are we, Sophia? Yes, sadly, it does affect your SEO. If you want the best SEO from Google My Business, then you do need to display your address. Yeah, it's just one of those things, really. It's catch-22. Let's find another one here. So Elaine asks, I understand becoming an authority if you're a national business, but find it hard how to do this or where to answer queries for a local dance school. You do it on your website. So your local people are going to be looking for answers to those questions, just like someone up north or down south will be. So you just make sure you're the person that they get that end result from. Google will actually prioritize local results outside of maps as well. So you will find that local people will start turning up in search, especially with an upcoming update from Google. Everything is going to shift much more towards local. So yeah, just make sure you've got the answers to those questions, which does lead on. So bear with me, I try and find it, but there was a question here. So Chloe Williams again actually asked about thoughts on an FAQ, frequently asked questions plugin. Well, they're okay. So if it makes your life easier and it means you add the content to your site, do it. But just make sure you find one that has at least schema, or sometimes it will say structured data. But look for one that lists schema as one of the features, because this is super important. So Google a little while ago, certainly this year, published an update to the way they handle schema, so structured data. And that actually has a specific type for FAQs. So if you use a plugin that has the schema structure for FAQs, you are more likely, you're not guaranteed, but you're more likely to appear in that knowledge section just under the actual, so above the organic search results, and even above the pay-per-click. So it's very good. There is a bit of a trial at the moment where Google's playing around with something. So if you would have appeared first in the search result, but they give you that knowledge bar, you will no longer appear first, which is a bit of a weird kind of thing to do. They're sort of taking from one hand, giving with the other. It's really a bit odd, but that's just in a trial. They may take it away. I kind of think they are going to take it away, because I've seen some searches where we've got duplicates again. So I think it will go, but it's with us for a while. Scroll down a little bit longer. So do alt tags apply to videos? Not really. You can put a title, so HTML title on the video, but yeah, it doesn't really apply for the videos. But to be honest, videos are kind of called in a different way, particularly if you use YouTube to embed them. We did sort of, I've got no answer here, but just to reiterate, so yeah, you're best to host your videos on YouTube and then embed into your website. That sort of avoids the issue of your website being slow because you've got a video on there, because it'll be called in afterward, after the page loads by YouTube. They sort of lazy load their videos these days. And also YouTube will do the hard work. They'll encode your video in various different formats and qualities so that it always displays best to the user. So let YouTube do the hard work. And as you probably know, Google owns YouTube, so definitely use YouTube rather than Vimeo. So let's see what else we got here. So how easy is it to switch over from Wix to WordPress? Or I get this question all the time. It's basically impossible. You're starting from scratch. So Wix is something called a closed source CMS. So they own the code. They won't let you take that anywhere. So you are having to sort of rebuild. You can almost copy and paste your content over. And I would recommend you get something. So if you did want to move to WordPress at some point, just make sure you get a theme that has something like Visual Composer. There's other ones called like Elementor. There's ones like Divi, which is quite popular. They claim they're the best theme going. In our experience, we say get a theme that has Visual Composer. It's, in our opinion, the best for SEO. It gives you the flexibility you would get with a Wix site, but it has more structure, so everything is in rows and columns, so you have that sort of structure that you need for SEO. So hopefully that answers your question, but yeah, sadly it's a big job to move from Wix to WordPress. You're basically rebuilding a site. With WordPress, because it's open source, you can move from WordPress to another open source content management system quite easily. Shopify to WordPress is actually easier than Wix to WordPress. Shopify has a better structure for their data. So you can actually, you do have to do a manual migration, which is a bit of a pain, but it is possible. So I have just Googled my business and my home address and the school I work from for the same business. Is it okay or should I combine? If you can get 2 listings on Google My Business, keep them. It will help you. So in theory, every location that you serve customers, whether that be your location or one you can just get permission to use, in theory, each one of those will rank in the map. In fact, we have a local search query that we take up all top 3 of the map listings, just because we have 3 offices. So yeah, definitely keep the addresses if you can. So is Visual Composer within WordPress or something separate? It is a plugin. It's actually called WP Bakery Page Builder now. Something's got a terrible name. I really wish they didn't change it, but it is a plugin you can install. It is a premium plugin, but most themes will come with it in like a developer license. Or certainly any decent theme will come with a page builder, and that just makes things a lot easier to maintain. It's definitely something you can DIY. It makes DIY WordPress sites a lot easier. So if you move from Wix to WordPress, do you lose weight in SEO? No, absolutely not. So you will hopefully keep your web address. So that's what I mentioned before about the domain, sort of the domain age. So definitely keep your web address. And yeah, you won't lose. If anything, you will gain. WordPress gives you lots of extra stuff for SEO. So even stuff that people take for granted. So let's say you create 10 pages and you've got 10 blog articles. You'll probably have about 50 pages in total, because WordPress will automatically create pages that put those pages into categories like lists pages as well. So and you'll get ranks from those as well. It's pretty awesome. What was its name? Visual Composer one. So it is called WP Bakery. In fact, I'll sort of type it in chat as well. But it's called WP Bakery Page Builder. It is the worst name ever. Visual Composer was so easy, and it's been in it for so long. Yep. So how do you get your Google results, your reviews to appear on website search results? You don't. It is entirely up to Google if they choose to display them. However, if you do that, so if you, let's say you've got WordPress, you install Yoast and you do that schema part, Google will is likely to, they're not guaranteed to, but they're likely to display your reviews next to your listing. It's not guaranteed, it's up to Google really, but if you use schema, it is more likely. So how are we doing on time, Andy? Have I got time for a couple more?
Yeah, good. We've got about 2-3 minutes. That's okay.
Okay, right, let's bash these out. Okay, fiery questions away, guys. Let's try and get as many as we can. So hopefully I haven't missed any. Just shout at me if I have. So what was the keyword search website called? So it's called Answer the Public. Oh, I have missed one actually. There was one back here. It's a really good one. So where do you find your keywords? So this is really important because a lot of times people will come to us and they'll say, oh, here's my list of 10 keywords that I want to rank for. And we put that into our tools here. And there's no traffic on those keywords. Like people think people are typing that into Google. One of the big differences is like children's or kids, for instance, children's clubs, kids clubs. And a lot of the times on local search, nobody's searching children's at all. Like, I mean, at all in most areas. There's difference in some cities, people do type children's, and in Wales, actually, people type children's a lot more. But yeah, in a lot of areas, children's clubs or children's yoga, so anything really with children's does not, like, nobody searches for it. Kids is the term that people use. So your best tool, so there's lots of ones like keywords.io is a popular one, but it's a paid service. The best tool in my opinion is actually Google's. So if you go on Google AdWords, you don't have to actually place an advert at all, but use their keyword tool in Google AdWords because they have the most data. And I would say it's pretty accurate. You will sometimes find it will say that there's no search volume, which you know is a lie because you searched it 20 times or whatever. So you know it's a lie, but definitely I would say that's the one to go for. So you get your keywords from Google's ad planner, then you put them into something like, so when you're writing a page or a blog, you put them into something like Answer the Public, so answerthepublic.com. Those guys will give you like 50 different topics, like potential titles that you can use that people are actually searching for. Another technique, which if I just quickly switch to my screen again, another technique is actually just to go to Google. So I can't believe I'm like just typing Google into, I was going to actually type it into Google then just for kicks. So start typing something. So let's say it's actually starting to suggest already because of a previous search, but let's say which age is start. And you see like they start sort of auto-suggesting. So maybe you can do something like, let's say you do swimming lessons, you can do something like swimming, and you'll see it's already started to suggest things. So these are potential blog titles. So this is what people are actually searching. And you'll see here, Google has automatically gone, hey, you're near Gillingham or near Shaftesbury. So it's already suggesting my location. And it will do that. Like search is based on location now. So you do have to sort of bear that in mind. Sometimes I have to sort of fight with people to get them to put their location on the website, but make sure you get your locations on there. And ideally, something I really missed before actually, so every page on your website should only target one key phrase. And that's really hard to keep that discipline, but only ever use one key phrase on that page because you'll only ever be able to optimize properly for one. It does mean that you end up like me with like 1,000 pages on your website, but it's well worth it, I promise. Right, we got any more here? Probably got room for one more. Look, some of these quick. Let me make sure I've not missed one. Oh, have we ran out of questions?
If anything's been missed, as it can be quite hard to look at that chat function sometimes, I find personally, but if we've missed anything, Chris, just punch your email in one more time for me.
Yeah, let's do that.
Guys, just drop Chris an email. I'm sure he's more than happy to answer a specific question you've got. And obviously do look at and ask about the Twitter challenge as well if you need to. And also we'll put a link to Dorset Tech on the recording next week that we send out early next week. So you guys can watch this all back again. And obviously lots of amazing advice. Thank you, Chris. I'm sure you guys are going to want to have a look back at some of the stuff Chris was talking about. If you've got a WordPress site already, you may well kind of follow it slowly and kind of add those plugins in potentially and kind of follow like that. If you haven't got a WordPress website, feel free to touch base with Chris, because I'm sure he'd be happy to give you advice on maybe how that would work and if they can help you. And obviously I know SEO as well is you do monthly packages, right, Chris? Well, tell us about that a little bit real quickly.
That's actually a really good, I haven't sold myself at all actually ever. I've kind of forgotten to mention anything really. I never do these to sort of like do the plug type stuff. But yeah, we actually do a discounted hourly rate for children's clubs. And we kind of always have as part of our social enterprise thing. So yeah, there's some packages on our website. They normally start at £100 a month, but children's clubs get 30% off of all our pricing anyway. And realistically, I mean, we've got children's clubs that sort of spend about £25 a month with us for SEO, just to sort of chip away at it kind of sort of approach. But yeah, we'll do as much or as little as you want, really. Kind of you're in control of that. And just pick up the phone if you just want us just to sort of talk you through something. Often we won't even charge you. We'll just sort of give you a bit of advice just to get you on the right track. And obviously we're here if you do need a bit more support than that. But yeah, I always sort of don't really tend to plug. But yeah, there's some packages there. There's no obligation to sort of stick with them. We want you to stick with them because you're getting results, to be perfectly honest. So there's no sort of long-term contracts or anything like that.
Okay, amazing. Guys, thank you so much for joining us for this event. Chris, thank you again for your time. You'll get a recording, guys. It'll be early next week, probably Monday or Tuesday, so look out for it when I get send it out. And if you're an ICAP member, there is one more session today, which is right after this in about 3 minutes time. So I'm going to go quickly grab some more water, jump back onto that. You do need to refer to the link I sent you guys, ICAP members. This is now to that event. It was to this morning, or you would have received an automated one yesterday. That's for the panel event about online audiences and the importance of building that through social media, that sort of stuff. So join us for that one. Everyone else, if you've got, you would have received the links this morning for tomorrow's series of events. There's 3 more events for everyone tomorrow, starting from 10 a.m. with a really, really good one with Theo Millwood from Swim Time. So please do tune in if you can. Yeah, Chris, thanks again. Really appreciate your time. And I will see you all later, guys. Have a lovely day.
Yes, bye.